I think your phone number.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so let's, one more comment, and then, because we're heading to the point.
I'll make it real quick.
Okay.
Go for it.
I was just curious that, obviously, the entire...
Sir, have you stated your name and everything for Christine?
Oh, sorry, my name is Eric Lumber, and I live at 1201B Bayside Drive. Okay. And I was just curious, a couple questions. I'll make it real quick. Just that, how the entire world knows that zero radiation is safe, but on this island, in my front yard alone, and around the island, there's been over 600 pieces of radioactive chunks, I don't know what you call them, but found on the island, but you still say it's safe. Also, with the groundwater, I was on the bus tour, you said that there's arsenic down below.
Yes.
And the groundwater raises the arsenic, but you said that the arsenic dirt levels were safe for humans to live on?
Well,
I had a question
okay.
about that. Oh, just one more thing, and then I'll wrap my part of it up.
Okay.
And you did say the dirt was taken from Doyle Drive. I was on the bus tour as well.
I don't remember saying Doyle Drive.
You did say Doyle Drive.
Okay. I'd like to see that, actually. But go ahead. You have one more question.
No, that's it. Good.
Oh, okay, so there were three. You see when you do this to me.
Sorry.
Okay, so three questions. First of all, you said the whole world knows that zero radiation is safe. I don't know what zero radiation means. You can talk to a professional radiological safety officer back there. I don't see zero radiation anywhere he put his instruments. There's radiation at some level everywhere. The fact of the matter is we have found radiological objects. The lion's share of them are in solid waste disposal areas, right? The beginning of the program, we didn't know that. The team that was working, Treasure Island, didn't know that. We know that now, and we've recovered, 577 in the suite is, a few more now. And the fact that they were in the solid waste disposal area subsurface does not necessarily mean that they posed a threat. And in this case, we don't see any threat that they pose to the residents that were living above the surface. We don't say that just blindly or lightly. We have risk assessors, and we have professionals in the radiological field like Mr. Schul in the back there, right, who we hire professional companies to do this. And risk assessors that work data and numbers on a scientific basis that tell us what the levels are and whether a determination of whether it's safe to live and work at Treasure Island is true or not. So that's the process we use. As far as arsenic, the arsenic has been liberated into the groundwater by the weather TPH.
Correct.
And
the conditions.
Right, and what I indicated there, or on the bus tour, perhaps I should say what I meant to indicate when we were having a free discussion about this, was that groundwater, the arsenic levels in the groundwater, the regulators are adamant about, and the Navy understands and concurs, that the arsenic is a threat to the bay water. It is not a threat to human health.
But I mean, when the groundwater rises up, doesn't the arsenic come
Well,
up?
when the groundwater rises up with its arsenic levels, right? It still is not a threat to any human health. The arsenic levels in the ground, the levels that are, the ambient levels of arsenic that are permitted in the bay water are much different than levels of arsenic that are permitted in soil.
Right.
What about the men fishing off the rocks?
Keith, he's talking about when it rains and the groundwater level rises, the arsenic rises with it, coming up onto the surface of the soil.
But just for instance, like you say that it's not safe, I mean that it is safe rather. I work for AT&T and our poles are covered with creosote and arsenate, which is a arsenic derivative, I believe. And they tell us not to wash our clothes with anybody else's clothes in the house, period.
On the telephone poles.
Correct.
Yeah, because the arsenic and the creosote levels on the telephone poles.
No, arsenic, not arsenic.
Arsenic.
But what I'm saying is if AT&T tells us not to wash our clothes with my kid's clothes or my wife's clothes or anybody else's clothes, how can you say that arsenic that's rising up with the groundwater is safe for humans? I mean, it makes sense, right? Or am I crazy?
But it's
I
not.
really think it has to do with the concentration.
Yeah,
And
it's not an arsenic contaminated site. It's a TPH contaminated site
the arsenic is naturally occurring in the environment, but it's being leached by the TPH contamination. As I
It's-
understand, yeah.
It's from the petroleum. It's not
No.
naturally occurring. Right, but I mean, there is certain levels of arsenic in the groundwater, which is not really related to the kind of stuff you're describing, with the telephone poles. That's different. I mean, for one thing, thank you. I mean, the stuff on the telephone poles, I really don't know what the concentration is, but I'm assuming it's much higher, but the point is, it's man-made. It was applied there for.
Well, no, I know that.
But-
What I'm
but-
saying, okay,
Yeah,
what I'm
but
saying
the
is that if we're walking on the dirt and I'm walking in the house with arsenic dirt on my feet, then,
Right.
you see what I'm saying? Like, how is that safe for everybody living here?
Right, and it's like they were saying, it's a question of level. And the levels that are safe for humans are not the same as the levels that are safe for wildlife. But you don't have arsenic in the groundwater everywhere. Only where you happen to have petroleum hydrocarbons. And it's a very strange chemical thing. Basically, there's a chemical reaction which makes the arsenic available. So the arsenic was there, but it wasn't available. And because of the reaction with petroleum hydrocarbons, it changes form and it becomes available. And that's what's happening in the groundwater.
But you haven't closed off the sites that contain the arsenic. They're still open, people are still walking on them. Those sites that you've identified are not enclosed. I've walked over them before I knew there was benzene and arsenic found in it. And therefore, it is possible for it to reach me. And you said you were here to prevent potential exposure as well. So I demand that something be done for the citizens that live here. I demand it.
Okay, any other questions, comments? What I'm going to recommend,
I had a
pardon?
I think that Mr. Lundgren's question originally about the radium 226, was
You're
it
really going to have to
related?
speak up here.
Okay, was it related specifically about that there's one commodity that was found in your front yard, is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think Mr. Lundgren's question is related specifically, right, to the one commodity that was found in their front yard.
Well, no, just.
And they may,
I mean, not just mine.
Right, but I mean that particular one, right, but I mean, they're not like all over the place. And so maybe you need to have a specific answer towards for that.
Yes, the number,
Because I
think I can
can.
correct, the number found outside the solid waste disposal areas during our surveys, 20-ish or less.
There was a specific number associated with that particular commodity, and there's a few of them that had some number between 10 and 20, right?
Correct.
So,
But you can only read 3 feet below supposedly. And you buried it in 6 feet of soil when you covered it or something to that effect. And we have those statements in past meetings as well.
I can't hear you.
Okay, so,
No, it's just you're backpedaling and you're not really telling the truth.
Well, could you speak louder?
okay, so what I'm going to do at this time, I'm going to ask Alice, would you like to still take a 10-minute break, or would you like to just go on into the next presentation?
I don't want to stay late because they ran over.
Okay, all right, so we'll go on into the next presentation if we can.